Chords and voices and voicings. So what's pretty spectacular, I think, on a staff is that this C chord, again, I'm just going to call this a C7 chord of some type. So C7, D7, E7, F7, even though we know that they have specific qualities and colors. Okay. Line, 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 line on the staff. This is space, 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 space. Because I started from middle C. And then line, 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 space, 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 space. As soon as we invert the chord, I love this. These are all lines. This is now a space. These are lines, and these are spaces. This is a line, and these are spaces. And if we take that whole chord and move it up an octave, these are all spaces. So you can visualize a seventh chord very quickly, I feel, on a staff. As soon as you see two notes side by side, you know it's a seventh chord. So if we see an F and a G side by side, a space and a line, I know that this is a G7 chord. It's always named by the upper note. Okay? Whenever you see the chord spaced out, it's named by the bottom note. It's a B chord, C chord, D chord. Whenever you see two notes side by side, it's named by the top note. G7, A7, B7, B7, C7, C sharp 7. Okay? And whenever they're half steps, this is likely to be a C major 7, B major 7. So I'm actually looking at the half step, B flat major 7. Instead of counting up the B flat scale to get to it, I'm seeing coming down, because sometimes you can play the chord down here and you wouldn't go up to the seventh. So see your major sevenths. I think a quick way of doing it, I guess, is what I'm asking you to investigate, is to see them this way. And whenever you play half steps, you are playing a major 7 chord. Conversely, when you're playing a whole step, you are likely to be playing either a minor 7 or a dominant 7. And I know there are a whole bunch of other cool variations that we can do. But whenever you're playing this, you're hinting at a 2 chord or a 5 chord. Okay? Or a minor 7 chord, I guess I should say, and a dominant 7 chord. And there's a whole bunch of other variations. So if I'm doing this, I'm thinking that we're on some kind of A 7 chord or A minor 7 chord. Now I'm on some kind of A major 7 chord. Okay? So think about that when you're looking at a staff. So as soon as I play an inversion of a chord, I'm skipping all the other notes and looking right there and going like, oh, it's an F chord. Oh, that's a D chord. Oh, there's a D chord. Oh, there's a D chord. Okay? So it doesn't matter whether I put the F and the A here, or the F and the A here, or the F and the A here. I'm still concentrating on this, whether I'm looking at my hands on the piano, the visual representation of this, or I'm looking at the staff paper. And I'm seeing a line and a space, 2 whole notes or half notes or whatever stuck side by side. Whenever you see a second, it's kind of hinting at a 7 chord. Doesn't always have to be that way, I know. Okay, next, let's talk about voices. We have a root stacked a third, a fifth, and a seventh. Root, third, fifth, seventh. Okay, voice 1, voice 2, voice 3, voice 4. In a previous video, I talked about moving the third and the fourth voice down, and then the first and the second voice come down, and then the third and the fourth voice come down. Okay, when you do that, I'm basically moving up the circle of fourths. I'm moving a C chord to an F chord, and I'm moving an F chord to a B chord, and I'm moving a B chord to an E chord, and so on and so forth. And now I'm back on my C chord. If I go the other direction, and I move the top 2 voices up, okay, I'm now moving C down to G, and I'm going down a fourth, or up a fifth. Okay, so C chord to a G chord, to a D chord, to an A chord, to an E chord, to a B chord, and then here's an F chord, to a C chord. This sounds strange because in most of the times we are not going to be moving that direction. We're always going to be moving up a fourth, up a fourth, up a fourth, rarely down a fifth. Okay? It's possible, but it's not as smooth in voice leading. Another cute trick is maybe taking a chord and moving it up. It's smoother to move up a second. So if I stack a seventh on that and do these chords, obviously that's pretty easy. But when you go to the D chord, it has a C in it. So what if we keep the C and we move all of the other voices down? And one more on this D chord here. What if we keep the D and we move all of the other voices down? Now we're on an E chord. So I'm now still moving in seconds, but I'm moving all of the voices down except for the root of the chord. I'm keeping the E, and then to move to an F chord, I lift all of the other voices, which are these, and I move them down. Okay? So I'm keeping that, and then I'm on that, and then I keep the F, and I'm moving all these voices down. Okay? So basically, let's do that again. You're keeping one voice, moving the rest of the chord. I'm keeping one voice, and the rest of the chord, which is here, moves down while I keep that one note. So I'm keeping that, the D voice, and all the other notes move. I'm keeping the E voice, and all of the other voices move down. Okay? I'm keeping the F voice, and it moves down. So I literally just went C chord, D chord, E chord, F chord, just by moving 3 of the notes down. Cool? Cool trick? Work on that in your left hand. So we've discussed moving up in fourths. We discussed moving up in seconds. Moving in thirds. This is great because tertiary substitution. Instead of a C chord, we can go to its relative, or the relative can go up a third to C. This was done in old classical music a lot. And then I'm sure Bach and Mozart did it, but in Beethoven's Für Elise, he moves from the key of A minor in the first segment of the song, section of the song, to F. He modulates to F. So Beethoven is one of those guys who said, hey, why do I always have to move a minor chord up a third to a major? Can't I move a minor chord down a third to a major? Okay, or could I move this major chord up a third to a minor? So here's a cute trick that happens on the piano. If I start on a D chord, D minor could move to F. F major could move to A minor could move to C major could move to E minor, and then E minor could move to G major. So I literally went minor, major, minor, major, minor, major, and then the cool diminished chord happens that is the dissonant chord in the key and the one different chord in the key that brings us back and brings us tension to come back to resolution to the tonic chord, where the fourth falls and the seventh raises. And that can be hidden in many, many seventh chords and 9 chords. So anywho, so I think of all of the colors in the scale are kind of boring, nebulous, cloudy, until you get to this one chord that is different than all the others. All the chords we played were major and minor, for instance. So when you're playing a C chord, what if we move to an A? Or what if we move to an E? Okay, and we substitute. So now this is a C13. Here's a boring C triad. Here's a C major 7. Here's a C major 9. Okay, if I went the other way, here's that C chord again up here. C13, C11. still a 13. Adding an 11. Here's a 13, 11, and 9. So it looks like I'm playing a D chord. An old pop song. Suspensions. So, what if we take this major 7 chord and let's go down 3 to A minor by moving one voice. So I took the 7th and moved it down 1. Okay, and here's the 7th, and if I move it down 1, now I'm on an F7 chord. And if I take the 7th of this and move it down 1, I'm on a D7 chord of some type. And if I take the 7th of this chord and I move it down, I'm on B. So we literally just went through the 4 variations of a chord. Okay, 4 inversions, sorry, of a chord. Sometimes I call them variations for my students. So you can take a C chord, and here's the first variation, and here's the second variation, and here's the home position. Okay, so root position, first inversion, second inversion, back to root. We stick a 7th on them, and now we have more variations. Root position, first inversion, variation, second inversion, third inversion, and then back to root position. So this is a root position C7 chord. Okay, then we're moving to an A7 chord in first inversion. Then we're moving to an F7 chord in second inversion, and now we're on a D chord in third variation, third inversion, and then we're back to root position. First inversion, second inversion, third inversion, root. So I love these, it's just really pretty. What if we go the other way? I'll take that A chord we just stopped on, okay? So we were always moving a voice down, and the voice that we were moving is the 7th. Now we're going to move the root voice, so we're going to take an A chord, and we're going to move up to a C chord. I'm going to take the root and move it up 1, a second, okay? And boom, I'm on a C chord. I'm going to take the root of the C chord and move it up, and boom, I'm on an E chord. I'm going to take the root of the E chord and move it up 1, boom, I'm on a G chord. And I'm going to take the root of the G chord and move it up 1, B chord, D chord, F chord. Oops, it's my F chord. I messed up. A chord, I didn't mess up. And back to the C chord. Okay, so I'm literally moving in thirds by either moving the 7ths down or moving the root note up. So pretty. It's kind of a cascading effect where it's almost like a voice. It's almost like you can see a scale happening inside. Okay, thinking of so many things as I'm doing this. I'm getting lost in my own fun. Okay, this is cool because I could move the chord in my left hand, the bass note with it. So I took a C chord, to an A chord, to an F chord, to a D chord, to a B chord, to a G9, G dominant 9, and then back to a C major 7. Okay. What if we went the other way? Take a C chord, to an E chord, to a G chord, to a B chord, to a D chord, so took a C chord, moved one voice to make it an E chord, moved one voice to make it a G chord, moved one voice to make it a B chord, moved one voice to a D chord, got tired of running that pattern. Now I'm playing a G in the bass, and I'm playing the whole G chord. So pretty. You can hear the suspension in this chord resolving. So chord tones, moving voices. If you were a guitarist or we were in a jazz band, I would be thinking of the chord this way, maybe 2 voices at a time, and then these. So basically, 3 voices don't move. In this pair up here, 1 voice moves. In this pair, 1 voice moves. And in this pair, 1 voice moves. And in this same pair, voice moves. Then we're back to the upper pair of voices, voices 3 and 4. Voice 4 moves, voice 3 moves, voice 2 moves, voice 1 moves, voice 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, really pretty. Or going the other direction. Voice 1 moves, voice 2, voice 3, voice 4, voice 1, voice 2, voice 3, voice 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3.